the Q&A is open. We'll go ahead and we'll do some. You can use your emoji, or it's really best to kind of raise your hand. So if you can raise your hand during that session, that'd be perfect. All right, Tom, are you ready with the filming?
Yep, it's filming. You're on.
Okay, awesome. Well, hey everyone, and welcome to AWE Nite SF, first virtual event in Microsoft AltSpace VR. Looks like you all have been taking full advantage of AltSpace VR's new avatar features. Y'all look great, great jackets, hairdos out there. Y'all look phenomenal. I'm Patrick Johnson, co-organizer of AWE Nite SF and CEO and founder of Rock Paper Reality. I'll be your MC for the event today, focused on XR and accessibility. So, for those who don't know, AWE Nite SF is part of the Greater Augmented World Expo family and is the world's #1 spatial computing event series with conferences and expos in US, Europe, Asia, and MEA, and supports 16 independently run AWE Nites around the world. AWE Nite has been around for 8 years now, and typically we meet in physical event spaces in San Francisco, such as the Microsoft Reactor. So this event is particularly exciting and special for us since this is our first time ever putting on a virtual event, but definitely not the last. And being it's our first time, we've done everything we can to make today's event a smooth journey, but hey, if things fail and something catches fire or someone falls off the stage, it's because we're totally new at this and at least no one gets hurt. So thanks in advance for your patience and feel free to pick us up if we fall. You can join the conversation on all the social channels using hashtag AWENiteSF. That's hashtag AWENiteSF. So please post about the event. We just surpassed 4,800 members and we really want to hit 5,000, so spread the good word. We are also looking for folks to join AWE Nite Advisory Council and for new volunteers. So if you're interested, please come talk to Mike, Tom, or me after the show and send us an email and we'll send you more details. Finally, we will be recording tonight's event, as Tom mentioned, so you can relive the awesomeness and share it with all your friends. So before we get started, let's do a little poll using the fancy heart emoji feature on your menu. And you can just find that, just click on the menu, you'll have a couple emoji pop up and you could use the heart one. Use another one if you like to, but let's do a quick poll. So for all of you out there, how many of you have ever been to an AWE Nite before? Nice. I'm seeing some hearts come up. Well, welcome to the virtual space. Now here's the question. How many of you have actually been to AltSpace before, or an AltSpace event? Okay, cool. That's way more. And how many of you are in VR right now? Nice. Anyone calling in from desktop? Got a couple of desktops out there. Anything else? Anything else other than the desktop? No. Okay, great. So, so basically, let's see. There's a few housewarming things or whatever that term is, items that we have to run through, housekeeping points. All audience members will remain muted throughout the event. During the QA session, feel free to use the raise hand feature, and we will call on you. After Q&A, we'll remove the bleachers and have some time for networking. All right, so first up on the agenda, we have a fireside chat with Mike Boland, co-organizer and chief analyst at Artillery Intelligence and editor of AR Insider. And he'll be speaking with Kevin Appel, senior technical artist at Microsoft AR/VR. Kevin led the design for all the new AltSpace VR avatars you are using today, so make sure you give him some love afterwards. All right, so without further delay, let's go ahead and welcome Mike and Kevin to the stage.
Thank you, Patrick. So everyone, it's great to be here. Let me just orient myself here. And there you are, Kevin. Great. Thank you, everyone, for being here. You can all hear me okay, I trust? Excellent. So we're actually very privileged to have Kevin here. So, we are in Altspace talking to Microsoft. We're talking to Kevin, who spearheaded the design of these new avatars that we are all embodying. So it's all very meta. So we're excited to have you here, Kevin. Thank you and welcome. Actually, I was going to say welcome to our stage, but this is more your home turf than it is ours.
Yeah, I guess so. But thanks for having me. Really, I mean, I think I'm lucky to be here to get to talk about the design, and I'm a member of a team that worked really hard on this and put a lot of thought into it for a long time. So, the privilege is mine. Really, thanks for having me.
Great. So for context, before we get into kind of the what and the why and all the fun stuff about the avatars themselves, tell us a little bit about your role at Microsoft.
Yeah, so I am a senior tech artist. I also have a history as a kind of 3D art production lead designer. I've been at Microsoft for almost 6 years. I worked in AR and VR on HoloLens 1 and 2, as well as Altspace. And before that, I was a 3D asset lead and character artist in kind of TV pre-production. So I had a long, history with AR and VR, with character animation and character design and things like that.
Nice. So let's get into the actual avatars. And before we get into kind of the what, I'd first like to discover kind of the why. What were the drivers and what were the kind of inception, the ideas for doing this and for launching this project?
Yeah, for sure. Well, when we looked at redesigning kind of the human avatars, we wanted to reinvent them in kind of the signature alt-based art style. We wanted to feel like they created a sense of familiarity and they really matched with our environments and a lot of the design that we put into the product was cohesive as a whole. On top of that, we really wanted to try and like maximize how much customization people had with the avatars. I think with our old avatar experiences, things could be a little limited, and so we put a lot of thought into how we could give users as much freedom and choice in their appearance as they wanted to express. And the last thing was also to go along with that, we wanted to kind of redesign a lot of our customization systems under the hood to have more flexibility. One, so our users could have more choices, and also so we as artists on the product could be a little more flexible and have sort of like more options and open-endedness when we worked on art for the avatars.
Nice. Now, let's talk a little bit about the actual attributes of the avatars themselves. So at a high level, I mean, you don't have to give us numbers, but I'm very curious on the kind of difference between the old avatar system and the new one in terms of the number of actual kind of variants and combinations. And I think that, pursuant to the theme of today, which is, the optionality to give people the ability to choose an avatar that they can identify with and identify just a wide range of personas. So I guess the question is, tell us a little bit about the range of options and how that helps accomplish that goal.
For sure. From like a pure number standpoint, I think when we kind of landed towards the end of production, we ran the combinatorial metrics, and here's how many pieces we used to have, here's how many we do have. And I think it's something like 100 times more possible options. Wow. But like personally, I don't like just looking at the number of combinatorial pieces because it's just like cool. I can have 8 different versions of this one striped shirt. Just because there are higher combinatorial metrics doesn't mean it's necessarily like meaningful customization. And so to pursue meaningful customization and more diversity in our options, we wanted to actually focus on creating accessories that sort of looked very different and gave people a really good starting point to actually make meaningful differences. I think we didn't want to just have like generic short hair 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We actually wanted to sort of make stylistic differences or even like textural differences. Like wanted to start getting to avatar pieces where if you feel like you have wavy hair, then you can have wavy hair, not like generic medium length hair number 2. So I think like I said, from the raw number standpoint, it's way more customizable than it used to be for all the humanoid expressions. And then also just from a design standpoint, we were really intentional about like trying to create actually different looks. We wanted to give people full control over their silhouette, over kind of the details and the identity that they could express by making meaningful choices and not just being like, here's a bunch of stuff.
Absolutely. Now, in addition to the actual optionality and all of the new variants and the kind of combinatorial math that you mentioned, another key aspect here, and it's related to the optionality, but the expressiveness of the avatars is also, across the board. And I'm curious what kind of the plan was there and what you are excited about in terms of the different use cases on AltSpace, whether it be new ones or whether it be existing ones that are enhanced through the ability to do things like, eye contact, mouth movement, hand movement, all that good stuff. What do you think that will unlock?
Absolutely. I think it unlocks a lot. I think the biggest thing is that we get deeper and more rich social connection by adding kind of expressiveness and immersion and life to the avatars. I think with some of the old humanoid avatars, we look to increase the feeling of the eyes actually, one, being sort of visible and expressive and looking around at people. We wanted to make the mouth animation more visible. We wanted to add some life there. And even little things like just the character design themselves. Like there's a little bit more sense of posture in the shape of a base character. There's a little bit more sense of just kind of like expressiveness. And we also want always with our avatars we want to make sure that they feel very like welcoming and inviting. And so I think we tried to add that expressiveness that makes everything kind of feel alive, and it hopefully makes AltSpace feel a lot more welcoming, a lot more inviting. And then when you actually stand face to face with a group of people and talk and see kind of like facial features moving and you see people looking around and a little more persona and expressiveness, it hopefully feels a little more rich and a little more like you're talking to real people instead of like, a lot of generic avatars. Another reason that we added body shapes and things like that was to be familiar and recognizable. We wanted the avatars to sort of stand out in a crowd, stand out from across the room, and really be recognizable. You can see if your friend has a specific look with the new avatars, hopefully you can kind of pick them out and say, oh, there they are across the room. So I think by making these social connections deeper and kind of more rich, we level up all of our social interactions. But I also think that kind of in VR in general, and as we look at HMDs that have eye tracking, or as we track, more full body interaction and things like that, the general trend in VR is this kind of concept of if you make things more lively and expressive and give more social cues, then you can maybe unlock like more serious conversations, much like,
Sure.
in the real world, we may switch from like text message to a phone call to a video chat or to face-to-face conversation, depending on the context of conversation we want to have. I think in VR in general, as avatars can give more social cues, then, hopefully we unlock those sort of deeper connections.
Sure. And what you may find, like anything else, is that there may be use cases and also levels of accessibility that grow organically, that weren't necessarily intended. And you'll find some kind of interesting things that flow from that. So as a final question here, what was the biggest thing that you learned through this process? And what can we expect next, at least as far as things that you can talk about with the avatar system?
Those are good questions. I think next steps are the first thing to keep in mind is that this is very much a first release, and there's a lot that we want to keep adding to it. We have many more accessories and things like that in the works. I don't think that we're done in terms of an art standpoint or in terms of a feature standpoint. And to build on this, I think we're very interested in hearing from our community. People are encouraged to give us feedback on the avatars and anything they feel we're missing or any features they're curious to see us explore at altvr.com/feedback. So feel free to kind of let us know if there's accessories that we would like to see, if there are features that we need to improve or tune or add. I think we're always interested in hearing from our community, because I think my biggest personal learning in all of this is like we tried very hard to be well-researched and inclusive in our design, and we tried to sort of look at where we could go to add ultimate customization to these avatars. And I think to do that, you actually really needed a really diverse like coalition of voices kind of giving you feedback and telling you what you're missing and telling you where people hope that you go with the system. So I think that's my biggest learning, is just that like it's like an ongoing process, and I think that we all have a lot to learn, about how to make this space better, because it is very much an emerging technology. It's an emerging social space. Like I think we've all seen in AltSpace people invent new ways of communication communicating in these new ways. Like the emojis that pop out in the crowd are very unique to this experience. So, I think that there's a lot for us to learn and keep doing, and we're curious to hear feedback on how we can keep moving it forward.
Well, that's great, and I congratulate you on a great avatar system. It brings more life to our events and more accessibility to our events, and those are all good things. So that's actually all the time we have, and you'll be available to kind of mingle and talk with the audience after our panel.
Yes, yeah.
Great.
I'll be hanging out, so I'll be around.
And we had,
Right.
only
Thanks
10 minutes
me.
for this, but we will be having more audience participation in the panel section. But until then, join me in thanking Kevin.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. And I'll turn the stage back now over to Patrick.
All right.
Patrick?
Look at all that. Yep. Can you guys hear me okay? Yeah? Hello? Okay. Yeah, there we go. Awesome. So, next up, we have our XR accessibility panel, and that's going to be moderated by April Boyd-Noronha. And she is the Global Diversity and Inclusion Advisor and XR Safety Initiative. And the panelists include Christopher Lafayette, founder of HoloPractice and founder of the Black Technology Mentorship Program, Bill Curtis-Davidson, Senior Consultant, Emerging Technology Accessibility at Wheelchair Group and XR Access Working Group Leader, and Kai Frazier, CEO and founder of Kai XR. So please give it up to the next group.
This is really stupid. No, dude, these chairs are like bizarre. Bill, are you going in there? Are you sitting at the end? Cool.
Hey, April, can you hear us okay?
I can. And are we ready?
We're ready to go.
Okay. Oh, let's see here. So, just to get ready for my questions here. So, I am excited about moderating the esteemed panel of experts on XR and accessibility. And I represent, as mentioned, the XR Safety Initiative as one of the various stakeholders in the accessibility ecosystem. So, to the panelists, what is accessibility through your lens of expertise, and how is your company using VR and XR to address this emergence? And anyone can jump in. Did everyone hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. I'll jump in to
Great.
start. I'll say for me, accessibility for me means that everyone has an equitable chance of utilizing a proposed solution. And to do so, those solutions were going to have to be created with empathy for diverse needs.
Yes. Other panelists, jump right on in.
This is Bill. Can you hear me, April?
I can, Bill.
Yeah, so this is Bill from Wheelhouse Group and XR Access Community. And just to echo what was just said, our work is really about people with disabilities and making sure that applications in XR and platforms are intentionally designed to be inclusive by involving people with disabilities directly in the design process so that we don't unintentionally exclude them. And we're working on in the XR Access community to bring together platform providers, content developers, researchers, and people with disabilities to help bring that to life.
Hi, April. It's Chris. Can you hear me?
Yep, go for it, Chris.
Hi, everyone. It's really a pleasure to be here to start off and saying that. And I certainly doff my hat to Tom and team for having the courage to put on an event like this and have a discussion like this. I obviously believe, and I think many of you also feel the same, that more discussions are needed like this, especially when it comes to XR, and that if we're going to extend reality, then we must bring reality with it. And so when we talk about accessibility, I think the biggest importance, and one of the things that I certainly look at when we talk about accessibility, is we need to look at accessibility being just that. It's if we have platforms, and let me be more candid and straight to the point, building a black emoji is not accessibility. That's more relatability, right? I can tell you about what it is. You can look at it externally and say, okay, we need more black people or black emojis so people will feel comfortable being here. But I think it's far better to hire the people that we want to use and buy our products. And I think accessibility will be more greater when we have people that look like me build platforms like Altspace and not just give advice to the people that build it. It's a far cry difference. And so accessibility needs to be accessed and built by the people that it aims to serve.
So, and did everyone have an opportunity? Yes. So, digging deeper into what your particular roles are, how has your company been using VR and AR to address this emergence of accessibility? So tell us what your company does, or what the avenue that you're using.
Yeah, sure, April, I'll pick that up. And so it's Chris again. And so one of the things that we're doing with the Black Technology Mentorship Program is we're realizing that it's more important for us not to continue to have a dialogue. I think if you take a look around the country right now, and I think we could be, a little bit open and honest to the situation, there's a great narratives that are happening. Not only do we find ourselves in a pandemic when it comes to COVID-19, but we also find ourselves in an equality pandemic. And there's a lot of hearts and minds that are speaking out right now on things that have been a tough talk and things that we've ignored for too long. And we're starting to see the decay and the manifestation reaction of what happens when we continue to ignore these subjects that we should be talking about so that we can make technology better. And as far as we have come and developed great technology, and all that we have built, we will never be as great as we can be. Technology will never be as great as it can be until all people, women and people of color, communities of color, and gender have an opportunity to build these platforms together. We will never be as great as we can be. So I'm more of the narrative of living it, manifesting that, and getting people involved with that. So with the Black Mentorship Program, I'm happy to announce we have over 100 mentors that have come and answered the call, and actually there's people that are sitting in the audience that are part of this platform, and I'm happy to announce that we have over 1,000 mentees that have answered the call, because the people that I'm sitting here staring at and looking at in the audience and the ones that are on stage, we have a responsibility to bring all people involved to build and work with us so that we can all build this technology that we enjoy so much together, or else we'll never be as great as we can be.
And to the same question to the other panelists.
Sure, I can jump in, April. This is Kai again. So I primarily work with students, and we focus on tech accessibility. The digital divide is real and it's growing fast. One of the stats I like to talk about is 1 out of 4 Black teens don't have laptops. They do their homework via smartphones. So if we know this data, we have to innovate for those truths. So our offerings that we create from our company can be used from everything from smartphones and other non-immersive devices, as well as top-notch headsets and experiences like this as well.
And kind of and what Chris had already alluded to was that with the most recent wave of global events and social action, how has your company's position or stand on accessibility changed? Has it remained the same? Has it shifted? Has it strengthened? How have these events impacted your particular company?
Well, I will jump on again.
That? Is there, yes.
No, I could jump in. So for my company, we didn't need COVID or the murder of George Floyd to let us know that there were some real issues that were happening. In fact, I created my company to address accessibility and things like that. So the change that we have seen, particularly, is just a renewed interest in some of these practices that should have been adapted from the very first point. For example, we are, when kids have to go from being in school to doing school at home, we saw some huge gaps, and it was leading to digital truancy, kids who just can't show up for school simply because they're lacking a laptop or Wi-Fi and things like that. So it's been a renewed interest for community support to help our mission, but we need these things to happen regardless of a pandemic or a gruesome police murder, things like that. This is everybody's work, just not the people who are directly being affected because of these situations.
Yeah, and I'll second that, and I'm 100% with Kai on that narrative in particular of actually having accessibility, and again, getting necessary resources to those that simply just don't have those resources available, but at the same time helping those within the Black communities in particular, point them in the right direction and give them opportunities that you and I and many of us here that are sitting here in this audience that are afforded. And what's interesting about what's happening is now that there's been some days in between since this particular narrative has started with equality, I'm starting to see personally those who post social media posts and show some type of fidelity about this narrative and those who actually walk the walk. There's a difference between having solidarity in word, but there's a far cry difference in having solidarity in deed. And so when we're able to see who really is for wanting to actually see change and who is really for wanting to have better equality when it comes to building our products. Look, platforms only understand the benefit they gain when they find themselves diverse. And we talk about ecosystems. And let's be clear, when we're talking about ecosystems, we're not talking about a set of hardware and software. Ecosystems are people. And culture is not separate and apart from technology. Culture is technology. And so the more culture that we have, that we find in our ecosystem, the stronger that ecosystem becomes. And the more homogeneous that ecosystem is, the bigger it is. And so it behooves us in technology to build culture, and to bring more people, more voices, so that we can have different perspectives and narratives outside of our own understanding to build a better. So Black Technology Mentorship Program, what I did is say, hey, look at all the people and all the ones that I know in technology in Silicon Valley and the cities where I'm from, Oakland, and how do I take all these geniuses on the right side and all these hidden geniuses on the left? How do I bring them together? And so that's exactly what I've done, is bringing these two worlds together. And the mentor program is not necessarily mentors helping mentees. It's extending a hand to help our mentees are extending to help our mentors to remove some of the implicit and explicit biases that they find themselves in. So it's a two-way and a two-way game. Ultimately, the technology industry as a whole will gain from having greater accessibility and diversification in this frame. Here I'm looking at all space. I've sat down with people that actually built this program before Microsoft took over. And I can tell you, to be candid, we surely need more color when it comes to operating in the virtual 2D and 3D narrative. Safety, that's cybersecurity, it's across the board, and we need participation. And so for those that are sitting here on stage looking at me and saying, I have a heart for this, then I encourage you to go to Christopher Lafayette and support this initiative. And if it's not my there's others on the stage that have other initiatives that the passion that I'm important to acquiesce to, because it doesn't help to be on the sidelines for wanting people to get in the game. It's necessary.
And Bill, I want you to jump in first on this one. The question is, all three of you that are on the panel today address accessibility in XR from a solutions-driven mindset. And I really appreciate that, because that's a whole other dynamic here to the topic today. Are there other solutions needed, though, that will further drive this much needed and ongoing awareness from a solutions-driven mindset? And Bill, can you begin with that?
I think Bill had to drop off. April. He'll
Oh,
try to
no.
get back on.
Oh, okay. Kai?
Yes. Can you? I heard your question, but can you say it one more time? I was so ready for Bill to talk. Sorry.
Oh, right, right. Well, so I appreciate the fact that the mindset that we all are coming from today is from a solutions driven, which is a whole other different parameter that I really appreciate being able to address today. But are there other solutions needed that will further drive this much needed and ongoing awareness of accessibility in XR?
Sure. I can say for me, like I said, all my answers are rooted in working with kids. And when we're talking about bringing these other solutions in, a lot of people don't know that there are solutions to be made because they've never seen VR. And that's a really, most of our work starts in educating people. So I always stress to people when they work in mixed reality, like, have you ever talked to a school? Who is going to be the next people creating behind you that has to think of these solutions? And they need you to help them in their design thinking and just even know that this is possible. So like right now, there's lots of virtual summer camps coming on. And I think a lot of times we focus so much on what's happening right now, we don't really take the steps to talk about what's happening behind us. And it's going to be the kids that are going to be making these solutions. So I encourage everybody, there's so many people and teachers who don't know what to do with COVID and they're trying to fill spaces and things like that. They would love to hear from you. And that's something as simple as reaching out to a school, maybe your local school, different organizations, boys and girls clubs, things like that, and just offering to do a session. And it means the world to the next generation coming up that is looking to you all to equip them with the tools to make these solutions.
Great. And Chris, I'm going to let you jump in first for the next question here is, who are some of the yet untapped and or unsung stakeholders that are still in the XR accessibility ecosystem?
I think everyone's a stakeholder, April. Because everyone has a different culture and everyone is part of the mix, but everyone has their interests and their access. A certain finite limitation on who are the stakeholders when it comes to narrative accessibility. And I think those who can help get these things going on. When we're talking about allyship, let's talk about that for a second in relation to that. But they're stakeholders, whether they realize it or not, they are. But it takes a certain amount of vulnerability and open-mindedness and an open, willing heart to look outside of ourselves and realize that there's other people that are wanting to build with you, and other people that are wanting to build together, and other people that want to contribute, and have just as much fidelity and a care for your platforms that we use every day. But we realize more and more, we're beginning to realize more and more that the devices and the platforms that we use every day, there's not people that look like me that have built it. And I believe that when you do bring people like myself, young adults, our youth, our children, and adults, and bring them to the narrative, the greater that your platform will be. And it's not just a feel-good initiative, but looking at diversity 2.0 as a revenue driver. When we talk about accessibility also from a technical perspective, now we're looking at perception and cognitive fidelity. Because now we're talking about interacting when it comes to avatar development and it comes to virtual development. Now we're talking about playing on the senses and on the cognition. Now we're talking about environmental and contextual fidelity. And the human factor certainly come into play to interact and make our experiences more highlightable. But folks, you must certainly understand, if only a certain group of people get to build these interactive virtual environments, and if only a certain group of people get to build these artificial intelligent environments, it's the more going to push us out, and we'll get more of the same of what we experience in the real world, if you will. And we're only bringing that same narrative to virtual environments. But that's not the real world, and that's not the virtual environment. Why would I want to go to a virtual environment to get more of what the real world, or more of what I don't get in the real world? Right? And so we want to be able to do better. And here we have an opportunity for greater unification. And so that's what we're focused on. Educating our youth, educating our children, to let them know how to identify with implicit and explicit biases, to be able to pair those with people that don't look like them, that don't come from where they come from, to be able to say it's okay to work with people that don't look like you, and these people are willing to help you out and extending a helpful heart to build with you and help bring you to where we're already at, because these hidden heroes want to work with hidden geniuses, and these hidden heroes are taking some vulnerability. So when we talk about who are stakeholders, let's talk about leadership. Let's talk about executive board members. Let's talk about all homogenous male executive board members. There has to be some type of vulnerability with our stakeholders. There has to be some type of open-mindedness to be able to penetrate this hard ground. And it's a shame that it took the death of a black man in Minneapolis for people to be chances what it is that hasn't been done. And so we realize now that we haven't done enough, but it would be a damn shame for another person to die or to fall victim to realize that we still haven't done enough. Aren't we tired of being so reactive? How about being proactive? How about doing things before someone else dies? How about moving forward before someone else gets hurt or another person gets alienated? Aren't you guys sick and tired of having these conversations? I'm sick of being, we talk about in Silicon Valley, all the diversity and inclusion positions that are out there. I'll be so much more happy when there is no need to have any more positions for diversity and inclusion, and that we can move forward in inclusive environments. And for our children, they won't even know what diversity and inclusion is because we got past it.
And I agree, and I just want to make this note once again that I totally appreciate the fact that each of us that are here on the panel today are representing from our own specific lens, which is in a way even the perfect example of being diverse. Each of us on the panel today can appreciate also the collaborative effort that it's going to take to push the level of awareness and accountability on the topic of accessibility in XR. When we look at the collaborative effort, though, I do, in Bill's absence, I don't know if he has rejoined us, want to mention and give great kudos to the XR Access Symposium that just occurred, and the depth and of speakers and the breakout sessions that occurred were awesome. I personally did not get to attend all of it, but day one just further opened up my eyes to possibilities and just where we have much more to go and much more to do. But when we look at collaborative efforts, who or what have been most supportive, Kai and Chris, who have been most supportive for you, or who do you look forward to collaborating with? I know in my role as the lead for the CyberXR Coalition, we look forward to collaborating with other organizations. That is the foundation of what we do, bringing in collaborative D&I focused persons to push the level of accessibility. And I mean, we've just recently launched a accessibility guide on accessibility, being diverse and inclusive, on safe environments within that realm of XR. So when we talk about collaborative efforts, Kai and Chris, where else can we go? Who has been supportive along the way with your respective efforts and initiatives? Can you share a little bit about that with the audience today?
Sure. I will say for me, I cannot give enough shout outs to the Mozilla Mixed Reality team. This was the first time working with them that I didn't come through a diversity program. It was just, we like what you're doing, how can we help? And it was world changing for us, for my team to actually have that. And they understood with their, motto of people over profit. In their foundation. So I just cannot, from their hubs, just being able to jump into mixed reality spaces. That's how we have taught a lot of kids to get into creating VR. A lot of my work is moving kids from being not just consumers, but producers. And when it came to trying to find a stepping stone for kids to get interested, we couldn't find one. A lot of kids, maybe they don't know how to code, or they have emotional issues, so they can't really, they get frustrated and they stop coding at home. So just having drag and drop capabilities was a first touch point for kids to get them excited. And for a lot of other kids, maybe they don't like this. That's really a privilege to know you don't like something. Most of the times you never even get to try. So I can't say enough good things about their team, their leadership. And then I'm always looking for people, we really focus on the digital divide and tech access. I'm really looking at working with other groups that focus on areas of vision and mobility and auditory and language and learning disabilities, and how we can also, improve our offerings to include a lot of other groups, so we have the best possible products we can for all of our students. And one thing is not even related. I just want to add, for so many people who are in this audience that are making mixed reality tools, I also challenge you to put your whatever you're working on in front of a kid and a senior. And if that doesn't change your whole outlook on how you make and create, I wish everybody would do that, because it would shape a lot of different conversations.
Exactly. And Chris, be brief, because we do want to have time for Q&A. Add to that, I know you have something to add to that.
Sure. Yeah.
Mhm.
Now, when I first announced this program and went public with the BTMP, the Black Technology Mentorship Program, to
Mhm.
my colleague, I didn't really know what would happen. I felt very vulnerable, and I didn't know how people would look at me, and being that I'm a technologist, but I also deal in culture and eco-culture, and for it to be so embraced by our mentors that have signed up, and so many people within the XR community in particular. I'm sitting here we're at this AWE platform, and talking to people like Corey Embar, who has answered a call for ventures, and said, yes, we'll be part of your program, and we'll be community partners. And I'm sitting here looking at Tom Emmerich and telling him, we're not strangers, and we've had talks about D&I and how to make it better for AWE, and AWE has certainly stepped up to answer the call to want to make it better and accessible, not just for communities of color, but for women and all different types of people, and understandings of outlets and people that we don't know, in situations that we don't know. And so within the coming weeks, we're going to announce, just as much as our mentors and mentees have answered the call, we've had companies and corporations that are now joining on as sponsors. And I'm really quite surprised, to be candid, of how so many different corporations have stepped up, and we'll be announcing here in the coming weeks of all of those that have come to the table, and platforms that I never would have thought in a million years that would even come and part of this per venture. But I just think now is the time that people really want to make some change, and I just believe they have it in their hearts to do it, and people are willing to go the long haul and to go the distance. And having an event like this today on such an occasion is indicative of that.
Right. And I tell you what, I'm not sure where we are with time, but I want to give each one of you an opportunity to give a shout out for yourself of how the persons in our multiverse can contact you before we go to Q&A. Make sure we get that information out.
Sure. So for me, you can visit our website. It's kayxr.com. And then to everybody that's in the group, I just have to say thank you so much, because so many people in this group, in this community, you guys have been monumental in helping our work. I cannot stress enough, getting into mixed reality is such a high barrier. For me to even get the funding to get started, I actually had to sell my house, my car, and everything I owned just to have a start at a company. And I don't think a lot of people realize how tough it is to get into it. I have a team of 4, and we've been working for about a year. We just got our first Oculus Go's because we couldn't afford to even have that much, money going into hardware. So the donations we have gotten from people, from GoFundMe to just donating hardware, I cannot think. I would be remiss if I didn't take the time to just say thank you so much to everybody in this room who are not in this room, but thanks to your efforts, we have been able to do so much for so many kids. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And we're at kayxr.com.
Bill, where can we contact you for? I gave you guys a shout out for the XR Access of
Thank you.
Symposium.
Sorry for disappearing.
No worries.
Headset problem with overheating. Sorry. So
no.
yes, I'll be around for mingling, assuming I don't disappear again, but thank you for giving us a shout out. xraccesscommunity.org is where you can get more information about our community that's focused on making sure XR is accessible to people with disabilities. And we just had a symposium, our second one. We're just a little over a year old, and had about 400 people attending from 23 different countries. And there's a lot of interest in this topic. And we're comprised of groups of people with disabilities, as well as the platform manufacturers and content studios and associations, researchers as well. So please get involved with us, and we hope to marshal our community in service to the greater cause of diversity and inclusion, being a part of the design of not only the platforms, but content and experiences. So I look forward to talking with more of you.
Go for it, Chris.
Yeah.
Where can they contact you?
The best way to contact is ChristopherLafayette.com. And I want to say this real quick is that, you know, when I came to Silicon Valley with Black, I found myself living out of hacker spaces, hotel on someone else's sofa, sleeping and living outside of Google and Apple and places like Facebook. True story. No seat in my car. Now I find myself in a situation where I've had the pleasure of being flown around the world to speak around the country and around the valley and globally in places like Europe, talk about technology and culture. And there's a lot of people that don't look like me that help teach me technology and bring me and help play the part of bringing it into that. And I felt a need to go back to where I'm from, places where I'm from, like East Oakland, California, to be able to have folks that look like you that took time to help teach me. And I want you to teach them. So 1 hour out of your whole year is all I'm asking for people to hear your story and what you do in technology from the sound of your voice. 1 hour, out of your whole year would change their lives significantly. So ChristopherLafayette.com is where you find the program. You sign up to become a mentor, so many of you in the audience are, and that I'm looking at. It'll mean a lot, and I know that you'll get something out of it.
And I am the moderator, April Boyd-Noronha, and the lead of the CyberXR Coalition, where we focus on D&I initiatives and narratives and policies and procedures in XR and cybersecurity. I can be reached at april@xrsi.org, or our website is cyberxr.org. So we'll open it up for questions, guys. Is that where we're going next?
Yeah, and April, are you comfortable using the panel for taking questions, or do you want me to kind of run that part?
I better turn it over to you.
Okay.
Patrick, I think
All right, everybody, we have a little bit of time for some questions here. I'm going to go ahead and open it up, so feel free to raise your hands. Just 1 second here. All right, so if you have a question, just feel free to click on the raise hand feature. That will be right, should look like that. All right, here we go. Oh, so I had a question, and my question was, would you say that technology has helped diversify and get rid of racism? And what I mean by that, let me explain, is that in the virtual realm, it's a lot harder to tell what someone's gender is and what color their skin is. So would you say that helps with like empathy and sympathy?
I would love to answer this question and tell you why I'm purple today. I have not had good experiences walking into social VR rooms being Black ever. So I intentionally make sure that I'm not Black. I'm okay with, people thinking I'm a woman. I'm not okay. I try to tell people all these diverse features that are added to avatars, that's cool, but we're just a representation of the larger XR ecosystem. So if we don't have diversity and we don't have openness in the real life, there's no reason to think that it will be reflected in the XR world. So this is why I try to make sure that I am safe. And there's some apps that you guys work on that are amazing, and I don't even use them because I've had bad experience with their social VR apps being a Black woman in them. So I love the fact that I can customize my stuff. Like, I'll be waiting for when I can have dreadlocks in my avatar because I have locks. But until this point, this is why I make sure that I made my avatar for this way.
I think I could also add to what Kai just said, if there's not another question, and that is with disability is a self-disclosure process often. And in social XR, and we've seen this as far back as Second Life and previous, where the disclosure of a disability or the identity of having an assistive device or any kind of customization to the way you present is something that is a self-disclosure process. And it also carries with it, as Kai was just saying, this kind of, people assume something about you by the way you are representing yourself. And some people have chosen not to represent their disability in a virtual representation of themselves, and some do. And of course, there are a lot of limited options there. It's not like we can customize at that level yet, but I think we've seen that happen in gaming, like in Xbox avatars, for example, where there's a lot of great options for prosthetics or different kinds of options. So it's similar to what Kai said, is that there's a choice made about how you want to be represented and assumptions made about you in this virtual space.
Yeah, and I'll even add on that right now for our platform, we're deciding on the avatars, and I'm probably going to make it so you cannot be Black or white or something else. You can only be a color. Working with kids, so they don't have those stigmas when they first come into the rooms, because it does, turn them off. One bad experience, it turns them off from ever wanting to do VR again. This is my first time putting this Quest headset on since I had my last bad experience with being in a social VR space. So I cannot stress enough how, it really turns off those new voices you need to hear who just don't want to mess with it anymore.
Right.
Yeah,
I'm surprised I'm Black, in case you didn't know. Sorry.
Yeah, and I'll say this too is and the reason that inclusivity is so important to the person's question that asked the question, and no, I think it hides diversity more. I think it hides racism more, to be candid. And this is the problem for a number of things, because remember, XR is not a single variable equation. XR is a multiple variable equation. Within the eco habitat, we'll have other technologies that merge with it. So when artificial intelligence, when we start to look at immersive intelligence and AI, think about that. The power of AI and XR together. If I'm already having a difficult time dealing with the machine learn when I go to wash my hands and it doesn't automatically come out because it can't identify the color of my black skin, how much more ineffective will it be when I have an AI XR experience? Right? And so we have to really consider that we need to have better and greater diversity. It's not just because of feel-good emotions, folks. This is for the functionality of the actual technology itself and how it can operate and to move forward, right? And how many different environments that I know that I've been called or invited to where I come in and I've only had the option between a blonde white male and a blonde white woman. I kind of ask myself, do I belong here? If you've never been in that situation, you don't know how that feels to walk into a platform that it seems to be so welcoming, but at the end of the day, it certainly doesn't manifest itself as such.
Okay. Well, I think April, maybe I think we're just about at time. Any last comments that you wanted to make before we kind of close it out and switch it over to networking?
I would just close with, as the leader of the CyberXR Coalition, we just launched, as I mentioned, our guide. And in the accessibility section, we listed a top 10 to-do list. And, I talked earlier about being solutions driven. So that is a great start, in addition to what all of the others on this as well. So cyberxr.org is where you can find that top 10 list specifically addressing accessibility.
Awesome. Well, thank you all so much. That was such a good panel. Can we get a round of hearts and applause and everything else for the panelists and all the speakers tonight? All right. And yeah, I hope you guys all enjoyed the show. This was so exciting. It's great being on an actual virtual stage. And like, you know, typically right now I'm in the UK and I have to fly back to San Francisco now since I'm kind of going back and forth for this. So it's great just to put on a headset and then, you know, we're all together again. So once again, thank you all so much for the great conversation and the participation tonight. We're going to open it up to some networking, so feel free to mingle. Make sure, once again, that you hashtag AWE Nite SF and follow us on Meetup as well. We have more shows coming. We're going to be doing more virtual shows, so this is the first of many. So thank you all again, and have a good rest of the day or night, wherever you are.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, April, for moderating.
Yes, you did a fantastic
Yes,
job.
thank you.
April.
Thank you, guys.